More and more people are moving to cities, and that's going to affect almost every industry.
We are very cautious and very aware to make a conscious effort to work with the ecosystem.
What can the average person do to take action now? Not one person can change the world, but if we all do a little something different, it might help.
Being open to embracing innovation.
Know that you can make a difference. Absolutely. There's no excuse not to even do a little bit.
Let's go check it out. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Green Podcast. I'm your host, Dylan Welch. Today we have an awesome guest joining us. This company has been a part of the green.org story for a while. We love featuring them, but they're doing some really cool stuff that we're going to talk about, something a little bit different today, which I'm really excited about. So Adore Me, the CEO, Romain, has been on the podcast a few times, and they're very passionate about sustainability in the fashion industry, which if you have been following the podcast or don't know, it's a very unsustainable industry. So hearing about companies and people that are taking initiative to be more sustainable is something we're really excited to talk about and think is very important. And today we have the VP of Growth Labs at Adore Me, Camille Kress, joining us today to talk a little bit more about what they're doing and also some really cool initiatives that they have going on. So Camille, first off, thank you for joining us from Paris, which is very exciting. We really appreciate it. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thank you very much for having me and for doing this early.
Of course. Yeah, no worries. So let's kind of dive right into it. Tell us a little bit about what you do as the VP of Growth Labs at Adore Me.
Sure. So at Adore Me, we have our core business, which is really the adoreme.com website and our different business models on there. My team takes care of trying to identify the next wave of growth, where we're going to go get that. So one example is, brick and mortar retail. Another is developing a portfolio of new brands that we're going to be able to rely on for new initiatives or on adoreme.com, but also new distribution channels. So it's really trying to think of what's next for Adore Me in the coming years and, starting small, testing, does it work for us? Is it a real growth opportunity or not really?
That's really cool. So you guys have quite a few brands underneath Adore Me. I think there's 11 at this point. Is that correct?
I think 11 is the right number.
Yeah, which is wild. And I love that, Adore Me is a huge company, huge online presence, huge e-commerce company. So how do you sort of decide and test what direction to go into next? What is that process like?
It kind of depends on how complicated the next project is. I think, if you take something like brick and mortar, which is so different from our traditional e-commerce business model towards which every single person at Adore Me is geared, it was a kind of complicated model to test because we had to learn about retail operations, hire retail people, stuff we really didn't know about. When it came to building new brands, the 11 brands that you mentioned, it's a little bit different. We had to create these brands from scratch, build their, branding, their value proposition, what they stood for and everything. But then since it's e-commerce, it is easier for us to test. And our way of doing it is just to rely on the mothership. So we have all these really great people at Adore Me working on different teams and they're really good at what they do, from acquisition to graphic design to every single team. So we just added those brands to their scope. And that's how we test without, hiring too much, without creating more resources. We really try to use the great resources we have internally and leverage them to test new opportunities.
Yeah, and that's one thing I've noticed with a lot of businesses, especially companies that are doing well and seeing a lot of success. They want to reinvest and grow. And sometimes CEOs or leaders can get cocky and say, hey, we want to go in this direction. And that can kind of stray away from the overall sort of direction of the brand that found them success. So I think that's a good idea to kind of test the water, especially with the e-commerce brands. And I'm sure you guys have been like, okay, this isn't going to work, so let's scrap that idea and move on to the next thing, which is important.
All 11 brands are not doing the same, let's say.
Yeah, exactly. And that's part of the process too. But one thing that I've always appreciated about Adore Me and talking to Romain is sort of the sustainable aspect of the company. You know, it's one thing for a company just to say, hey, we're going green, we're going to be more sustainable. But since speaking with Romain, and we've been in contact for, you know, over a year now, probably more, he said that it's really been built into sort of the DNA of the company to be sustainable from the ground up, where every product is made. So from your perspective, you know, how has that been? Like, is sustainability something that you're personally passionate about, or did it come with being a part of the company, or what has that been like from the Adore Me sustainable side of the process?
That's a good question. I think it's been really interesting to be at Adore Me. I've been at Adore Me for 7 years, and 7 years ago, we were not a sustainable company at all. And I think it's important to be honest about that, to recognize that we really started from scratch. And 7 years ago, when we, were hiring new people for our team, sustainability wasn't a topic. And I think it's fascinating to see that today, a lot of the people we interview and who want to join the company, one of the key reasons that they want to join Adore Me is for all the sustainability projects that we have ongoing. So we're really happy to have managed to, switch the company perspective on that. It took a while. We're not there yet at all, so it's still work in progress for sure. But it's definitely an interesting long-term project where you have to get everybody on board at the company level in general to make sure that it is really something important for everyone. For me, sustainability was always important. I say that, and I joined an e-commerce company that was not sustainable, so it was important, but it wasn't, the key thing that I was looking for in a job. But I was really excited when we started speaking about these first sustainability opportunities we had within the company, and definitely joined board as soon as we had projects internally that we could push to make the company more sustainable.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point. And that's why I've always liked talking to you guys and talking to Romain and talking about Adore Me, is you've always been very honest that, hey, we're not a perfect company. We didn't start out to try to be sustainable. And I think that is much more important than a company just slapping on, hey, we're sustainable, because no one is perfect. No company just starts out 100% sustainable. It's literally impossible. But acknowledging that and then sort of making those steps in the right direction, I think is extremely valuable. And that's probably why, you have good people flocking to your company to work there, is one, the honesty, and two, just, that constant improving, because even the most sustainable companies on the planet can never say, yeah, we're 100% sustainable. It should always be a work in progress. You should always be trying to find new ways to improve. So what kind of, now that you've sort of seen that shift, like, what has the work life been like for you? Do you find it more enjoyable? Does it become more sort of like a bigger project than just you? Or has it kind of become on your radar being more sustainable now that Adore Me is kind of making that initiative?
I think it has. I think what's been nice also is being able to impact Adore Me on that sustainability front, and come up with ideas from my personal life, or even, try to implement them in the office and different things like that. I do think now I'm even more proud to say that I work at Adore Me, which I think, for me is important, being proud of where you work. And it's true that now, compared to 7 years ago, sustainability is always kind of back of mind in everything that we do and everything that I do, even generally speaking. I do live in Paris, in France, where we're pretty good on sustainability topics in general in big cities like Paris. So that's also something nice to be able to bring back to, the New York office, and try to kind of help on that front.
Yeah, and that's cool, because I'm sure Paris is probably one of the, or if not the leading city to be working in when it comes to fashion and sustainability. And I think Adore Me, again, why I like talking to you guys is you always seem to be kind of at the forefront or ahead of a lot of curves. For example, even just being an e-commerce store, starting 7 years ago or longer, e-commerce wasn't as common as it is today. Every company now has an e-commerce store, where you guys kind of started out that way and saw that trend. Same thing with sustainability. 7 years ago, not every company was saying, hey, we want to be sustainable, we're going to be sustainable. That's fine, and that's normal. Things change as world situations are happening and, you know, consumer decisions change, but you guys are always kind of at the forefront of that. In terms of sort of being an e-commerce store, post COVID, how has that been, you know, when it comes to building the company and scaling? Like, because you said, you know, people that you're hiring really appreciate that initiative of incorporating sustainability into that. So like, what are kind of the value props that you're adding, you know, as we come out of this, especially to your employees? Because it seems like everyone I've talked to at Adore Me really enjoys working there. So what is it like, kind of like behind the scenes, you know, day-to-day life at Adore Me?
That is a good question. It's definitely not the same today than it was before COVID. Before COVID, I would have answered that, you know, we have such an amazing company culture of, you know, being all of us in the office and doing a ton of afterworks and very typical e-com startup type of thing. Post-COVID, I think we've been very successful at keeping the culture alive, which is good and wasn't easy. But it's definitely not the same as, you know, 5 days a week in the office. So now obviously we do, you know, more or less half work from home, half work from the office. We've managed to implement a few things that keep us, you know, connected, and we still know everybody at Adore Me. I think that's super important. We're a bigger and bigger company, but we still know everybody's names. We do a lot of gatherings and stuff like that. I think our main culture specificity that remains is transparency on everything, whether it's internally, you know, we share all the numbers, we talk about all the projects, we have a company meeting every Thursday where somebody shares the initiative they're working on or the budget and, you know, how well we're doing versus the budget or how badly we're doing versus the budget. So there's a lot of transparency around what's happening in the company in general from every level. And then there's also a culture of, you know, being very, I have the word in French, but I lost it in English, but it's the being very nice to each other. So it sounds kind of cheesy. I had a better word for it, but it is being, you know, being on the lookout for what's best for everybody, not being competitive at all internally. There's no political aspect to any position at all at Adore Me. And I think that's what makes it such a nice place to work at, is everybody's very motivated by what they do and only by what they do and who they work with. You know, not at all by the idea of growing, of different things like that. So it's definitely a very nice culture. And nice is such a bad word, but I lost the better word.
If you're listening or watching and you know the word, feel free to comment. But no, I think that's really important too. And especially now, you know, workers are looking for that type of work environment. I think just generally speaking, they want a place they feel comfortable at. I think people are a little bit over the 9 to 5 in the office, the politics, you know, they want to be a part of something that they're passionate about, that they feel like, you know, they're kind of giving back more. And so I want to know, is Adore Me hiring? No, I'm just kidding. But so one thing too that, you know, really kind of what I wanted to talk to you today is another brand that you guys are building, and that is sustainable.com. So as green.org, I feel like sustainable.com is kind of like a brother / sister to us, because we have, we're kind of tapping into, you know, the ability to connect all around the world using digital media, using social media to educate people, to inspire people. So tell us about sustainable.com, because you guys are doing some really cool stuff with it.
Yeah, sure. So sustainable.com is actually not brand number 12, but it's a channel we're building. So it's a marketplace on which we sell different brands. And the idea behind sustainable.com came from something we've been noticing at Adore Me for the past couple of years. It's that, you know, sustainable fashion in the United States is not at its best place right now, because it's very expensive usually, also kind of boring. You know, it's mostly beige tones or dark blue or gray and black, and it's nothing very exciting. It is also very complicated. And so if you add, you know, the fact that it's complicated to the fact that it's expensive and kind of boring, it's clearly not for everybody. And at Adore Me, everything that we do, whether it's, you know, our brand portfolio or our channels or anything, is really about making fashion and sustainable fashion available for everybody. And so, starting from that fact that, to understand sustainability in general, you need a PhD in sustainability. There are so many different indexes and so many different ways that a product can be wrong, and shipping can be wrong, everything can be wrong, but for different reasons, and it's so complicated to understand. We decided to try, because we're trying, it's the beginning, to make it all much more simple and much more fun and much more accessible. So we're creating this marketplace called sustainable.com, on which we're selling sustainable products from different brands. So it's not necessarily sustainable brands, but they're the brand's most sustainable products, on an e-commerce website that makes shopping fun, easy, just like you're shopping for any normal fashion item. But that all these products are sustainable because they've been rated by our Shine Index, which we've developed in-house.
That's amazing. What I think is really cool about what you guys have done is, and speaking with Romaine in the past, is you're at a very good spot as a company where you're growing and you have the ability to reinvest into new projects and pivot on things that aren't working, versus, a huge company that has to face a lot of bureaucracy from the top down. But also at the same time, just having worked in digital marketing and digital communications and branding and e-commerce in the past, I know how difficult it is to actually start an e-commerce store and build a platform and build a marketplace. So I feel like you're at that really good spot as a business where you can sort of tap into, savings or investments or customers and kind of use that to build a marketplace, but also not get bogged down by, just not CEOs, executive board teams being like, oh, I don't know, because you have to move fast with these things. Otherwise someone else will do it. So that's really exciting. Has the store launched yet, or is it still in sort of the conceptual building phase?
It launched, let me see what day, a couple of weeks ago. So the website is open, sustainable.com. It's still in beta phase. It's the very beginning. We're still getting customer feedback, user feedback, everything. But there are a lot of different products, a lot of different brands on there already. We're very excited because we launched in March with one of our co-creators, Marcy Zaroff. In April, we'll launch an exciting brand with a collaboration with another kind of famous ambassador. So we've gotten a lot of traction, and we're pretty excited by how fast this is going.
That's amazing. So you just launched. Congratulations.
Yeah, we literally just launched. Yeah, thank you.
That's amazing. I'll check it out. And we'll link to the store and all of the podcasts and social media channels promoting this. Very easy to also remember the name, sustainable.com. So if you're watching or listening, go check it out. Where do you kind of see, the marketplace, sustainable.com, going as a whole? Do you want to continue partnering with brands, or where do you see it in the next couple of years?
Yeah, I think the idea is really I think for that type of initiative, scale is really the challenge and is really the goal. I think this only works at scale because, a marketplace is fun to shop and easy to shop and accessible to shop if you have a big diversity of brands and products on there, and you want it to be the one-stop shop for anything sustainable. We really want to target the American consumer who want to shop sustainable. They're not against it. They just don't know where to go, or they don't want to spend more money on it, or they really just don't want the extra hassle. So we definitely want to be that destination where when you're looking for a sustainable product, you go on sustainable.com and you know that whatever's on there is a good, solid, sustainable product. And there's different rankings. There's, our rating system goes from 1 to 3. So a 1-star product is already a really sustainable product. A 3-star product is like, you can't be more sustainable than that product. So you know that whatever you're doing something good. And we kind of wanted to stop there, meaning it doesn't have to be more complicated, doesn't have to be more scientific than this. We just want to help the consumer figure out how to shop sustainably.
Amazing. And are you going to stay in the fashion line, or do you think you'll ever expand out to other products?
we definitely want to, at scale, expand to other product categories. We will need to adapt our rating system so that we can rate, fashion, apparel, and beauty, and furniture, and other things.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, honestly, I think, again, Adore Me's been on the podcast. We've written about you guys so many times, and it's just really cool to me to see how quickly you guys will have an idea and then implement it. Like we'll go like from one episode to the next where we'll talk to someone and be like, yeah, we're working on this. And then literally, a couple months later, oh yeah, it's already happening. It's going. So that's super cool. I find that, just really impressive for companies to be able to move that fast in a way that, helps grow the business and is also has a positive impact on the environment. So what's kind of the next step? Where do you see, yourself growing in the company and sort of Adore Me and sustainable.com going in the next couple of months or year or so?
That's a good question. I'm personally 8 months pregnant, so I'm going on maternity leave for the next couple of months. And I think when I come back, I'll be excited to see just what you said, which I'm sure, the Adore Me today and the Adore Me 3 months from now, it's nothing, it doesn't compare. There's probably going to be 1,000 new projects launched while I was away. So I think, personally speaking, I'm excited to see what Adore Me in September looks like as well. I don't actually know. But for sustainable and sustainable.com and the other projects that we already have ongoing, the idea is really to, show proof of concept and get scale, show that we can get scale, which I'm sure we'll manage to do in the next couple of months. For sustainable.com, that means onboarding more brands, getting the word out there, getting people to talk about this. And for everything else that we do at Adore Me, it's just continuing to improve our operations, improve our product sourcing, improve everything we do to continue on the path towards sustainability, because we've started, we're doing pretty well, but we're definitely not there yet.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot happening in the next couple of months. Next time we chat, there'll obviously be some big changes happening. Congratulations on being 8 months pregnant and taking some time out of your day to chat with us. How can our audience support sustainable.com or Adore Me in your ventures and continue on the path of that?
I think for sustainable.com, anyone who can go on the website, navigate, test it out, buy something to see if they like the product and give us feedback is the most important on the experience, keeping in mind that it's still a beta phase, but any feedback is more than welcome. But also recommending brands that they think should be on sustainable.com, because we're going to, we've had brands reach out to us. We are going to actively reach out to brands, but we'd love to get recommendations of, brands that fit the bill and that could be a good match for sustainable.com. So that's definitely one good way to help.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure there's some people listening or watching this right now that love, sustainable brands. So if you're watching this or listening and you have a company that you really like working with or buying their products or know they're sustainable, make that connection. I think that's always been sort of our goal with green.org, is connecting consumers and businesses and just seeing how we can all work together. So it's really exciting that Adore Me has built sustainable.com, because that's basically, extremely difficult to build a marketplace in today's age, and they have the ability to do it. They've gone out and done it. So let's support that. Camille, thank you so much again for being here. It's Friday. It's early in San Diego time, but I know it's late in Paris time. So, thank you for taking some time out of your day. I hope you enjoy your weekend. And I look forward to chatting with you again soon. In a couple months, I'm sure we'll have you guys back on here, and excited to learn about all the changes that are happening in your life. Again, congratulations on being 8 months pregnant. I'm sure that is not easy as well. And also just seeing the things that'll be happening at Adore Me and sustainable.com. So thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Appreciate it. And of course, everyone who listens and watches and supports the show, our goal is always to bring you leaders in renewable energy, clean tech, sustainability, all with the goal of just connecting you with the ability to be more sustainable with your choices. Please go and support sustainable.com. If you have any companies or brands that you'd like to connect with Adore Me or sustainable.com, I know it's they made it very simple and easy to connect with them. That's one thing I like about Adore Me is they're not just this faceless e-commerce corporation. There's a lot of really cool, really ambitious people working there that are proud of what they're doing. So make that connection, keep being sustainable, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Green Podcast. Thank you very much.